So it feels a little bit like deja vu. Fiji versus New Zealand. It was not long ago that we were doing our preview of the last time that these two sides played off. That was the Hong Kong Sevens final. These two sides now playing off, but it is not for the final in Singapore. It is instead for one of the semi-final fixtures. Going to be an entertaining game as always when these two sides do play off out there on the park. And for this preview, we will be looking through at everything you need to know heading into this matchup, but that will include previous fixtures, key players, and also our prediction at the end for who we think will be walking away with the victory in this Singapore Sevens semi-final. But we will jump straight into it. Fiji, recent fixtures, they were a part of Pool B of the Singapore Sevens. Their first game was up against the Canadians, in which they were able to win 21 points to 12. So quite a nice warm-up game for the Fijians, as I always say, when it's up against a slightly easier opposition. But the second game for the Fijians was anything but easy. They were up against the Samoans, which they had beaten 15 times in a row, but that did not become 16. Samoa able to win it 28 points to 7, and something in that game for the Fijians was just off. They weren't able to quite click, making little errors. Samoa dominating the possession, which was one of the key reasons why they were able to get themselves such a one-sided victory. But Fiji from there, I think they learned a few lessons. In their next game up against Spain, they were not messing around. 31 points to 0 in that contest, building momentum for the quarterfinal. And in that quarterfinal, they were up against the French. 33 points to 21, the Fijians able to win it. They did have a red card in the second half of Balatha, so I'm not sure whether or not he is allowed to play in this next game. I know with Sevens it's a little bit different to Union, whether or not there's some sort of rule. I am not too sure yet, but even without Balatha, they're still going to be very strong in this next game up against the Kiwis. They did concede first up against France in the first 30 seconds, but then from there got themselves multiple tries to get into a position of not being able to lose that Sevens matchup. Then for the Kiwis, first game they had Hong Kong, China as a part of Pool A in Singapore. They did manage to win that game 47 points to 0. So a pretty one-sided affair for the Kiwis. And it did help them get a lot of confidence when it came to scoring tries throughout this competition. Their next game was up against the Australians. A little bit closer, 24 points to 12, but still a win for the Kiwis. And then their third game up against the South Africans, their toughest game up till that point. They did manage to sneak by, get themselves the win, 12 points to 7. So that is actually 2 weeks in a row that New Zealand have been victorious over the Blitzboks. But then they moved through to their quarterfinal game. It was up against Great Britain, New Zealand winning it 22 points to 10. They had a nice early lead of 17 points to 0. Took their foot off the gas in the second half, though, I did notice. So I'm not sure whether that was to prepare for this next game up against Fiji, or whether it was just something wasn't quite going right for them in the final few minutes. But now looking through at key players from the last game when Fiji were able to win it 33 points to 21. There were 5 occasions when the Fijians were able to cross the try line, 2 of which was actually Tario Tamani. He had a very good game in that last match. So for that reasoning, I am going to say that he will be one of the keys in this contest. Also, Ioane Teba, been brilliant lately, always finds a way of creating opportunity when the Fijians are sitting with a stagnant line. Just gets that step going, manages to find an offload, and that is something they will need up against New Zealand to take every opportunity that does arise in this semi-final. And then the last man, I'll go with the first try scorer for the Fijians in that contest, and that was Josefa Talathola with those long levers that he's got. If the Kiwis aren't able to tie up both legs, it's going to be a hard man to stop in a tackle. If they don't tie up both arms, it's going to be a hard man to stop when it comes to the offloading. So Josefa Talathola, third and final Fijian player we'll be going with to watch out for in this contest. Then for New Zealand, their game up against Great Britain, they won it 22 points to 10, like I mentioned, 17-0 at halftime. Kulia Rokalisoa, he did go off relatively early in the second half, but at that stage, New Zealand had pretty much secured that victory. I think some of it was down to Rokalisoa's skills, scoring the first try. He just seems to be playing some of his best rugby sevens at the moment, so I wouldn't be surprised if he is one of the main faces that we see for the Kiwis throughout the semi-final. I wouldn't be surprised if he does get himself a try. Then the next name for the Kiwis, I will go Leroy Carter. Now, in the post-match interview, I did actually say that his nickname used to be Boomfer. That was because he used to get bumped off. But now he is the player who is bumping off the opposition. Even though Fiji are not an easy side to be able to bump off, I'm sure Leroy Carter will still run it as straight and as hard as he can, try and bust through a tackle, even if it does mean sacrificing himself so that he can get the pass away to one of his teammates. And then the last player to watch out for the Kiwis, I'm going to go with someone who didn't actually score themselves a try in that last match, and that is going to be Moses Leo. He was relatively quiet in that last game, so I think he will have a prominent game here up against the Fijians, whether that is starting lineup or coming off the bench. I think with his pace that he's got, if the Kiwis can get it out wide to him, he might just have enough to get over the try line. And it could be the difference maker between the Kiwis losing or winning this game. And speaking of losing and winning, we are up to that stage of trying to predict who will get themselves the victory in this contest. Last week, I believe I predicted Fiji to win the final, and they did end up losing. Even though the Kiwis have been in some very good form up till this point of the competition, I think Fiji still have that one last gear in them. The question is, if they beat New Zealand in the semi-final, will they be gassed out for that final when it comes around to face up against either Argentina or Samoa? And the answer could be yes, but they've still got to throw everything into this game up against New Zealand, even though New Zealand's structure has been looking very strong. Their most recent game, there were a couple red flags in there, so because of that, I'm going to say Fiji win this game 19 points to 7. And that would be actually a rarity for New Zealand to only score one try in a match. It's a bold prediction. We'll see whether or not it pays off in this next matchup between the two sides. But I do thank you all very much for tuning in. We will be doing the live commentary on the channel for this matchup, so be sure to check that out as well. It is taking place at 8:35 p.m. New Zealand time, which is not too far away at all. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you all for the next one.